what I invited him as a co-host anyways. There's no obvious way that this is coming together for us, so we don't want to hold you up, but I don't want to also waste your time. So let's jump into a few different strategies that I have used to really help my Q4s. And I think this is really important because there's so much hype around Q4. So let's talk about the first one here. Okay. Um, yeah, okay. Bert says, yeah, it's okay. These things can happen, and sometimes Facebook doesn't make it any easier. Yeah, I don't know why they like canceled all these things out and then they make it so hard. Like, I'm going crazy because they don't have a great way to share screen. Anyway, so much is happening here. Yeah, Chris said, sorry, all darn Facebook doesn't want to play nice today. Yeah, they're not playing nice today. I don't know what's going on. So let's talk about Q4 and some strategies that you guys can implement. And what's really important is that you're implementing now. So this is going to be strategy number one for you guys. Okay, and if you guys have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I am happy to answer everything. We're not going to hold back anything here. So if you guys have questions about anything, put it in your chat and I'll answer it now or when it kind of the space opens up for it and it seems appropriate. So, all right. So first thing here, oh, thank you guys for your kindness. I appreciate it. Okay, so our first strategy, and I'm going to write this down on a Google sheet and then I'll post it in the chat afterwards so you guys can have the notes because right now Facebook won't let me share my screen. So here we are. So first strategy is going to be to start now. Okay, so strategy number one is going to be, I'm going to put on a sticky note so you guys can see it. So strategy number one is to start now. Okay, so I can't, hopefully you can see that okay. So strategy number one is to start now. This is really, really, really important because what happens is Etsy will give your listing a quality score. Okay, and every listing gets its own quality score. And essentially what that means is that Etsy's algorithm will start testing your listing immediately when it gets posted. And you really have this like magical 3-day period where your listings always get pushed up to that first page because Etsy's always trying to find what do customers want, what's going to be the next product. So they always push these to the top and see what kind of interactions happen. Now, we don't know exactly how the algorithm works, but essentially, the way I like to look at it is if your listing has a positive interaction with a customer in that magic time, or eventually, it doesn't have to happen within 3 days. That's a really good sign. But if it eventually happens, maybe it takes a couple weeks, but you have a positive interaction, like a favorite, and the golden sale, that's always going to help. Then Etsy is going to rate that listing as a positive listing, and they might show it to more people to kind of test out, well, where does this listing fit in? Who does this connect to? And why would we show it to customers? And they start collecting data. So the more positive interactions you have, the higher your score will be. And what happens during the holidays is that we have the holidays happening. So we're going to say we're in July, and then this is going to be the holiday season. So this is Q4. And we're talking about, we're going to have Halloween, fall, Christmas, Thanksgiving, football season, rodeo season, all the favorite fall things that are happening. And what happens is we kind of have this curve right here for sales. Okay, so you guys can see this right here, my sticky note. So we have July. And what's happening in July is people are actually already starting to shop for fall products. Okay, so this is holiday season. I have already had a few Halloween sales, which is pretty cool. And that's great because that's telling Etsy, hey, my product is really, really relevant to people who are looking for this Halloween product. And so right now, I'm starting to get a few sales right here. Okay, so that's really good. I'm going to put like a little star right here. Now, what happens is as customers come, like right now, there's not a ton of customers. Like I'm not getting sales every day on my Halloween stuff. I've just gotten a couple. But as I start to get more sales, as more people come on, Etsy will keep testing it. And what will happen is I'll start to get more sales more consistently. And then I'll show you what really, really happens. Okay. So I'm putting all these little stars for sales. This is kind of fun. I have to draw a lot to illustrate this. Okay, so what happens is at first, you're just going to get a few sales as more people come in. But Etsy keeps showing it to these people because I've gotten this initial sale down here. Okay, I've had that little fairy dust that has really told Etsy, like, this is a great product for Halloween. And they're going to keep showing it. And as more people come, I'm going to keep getting more and more sales. And then as we start getting closer to the holiday, I'm going to get more and more and more sales, and it just starts to take off because all these customers are now starting to come, and I have proven my listing down here to Etsy that it is a really, really, really great listing, and they can trust that it's going to serve all these people as they come to the platform for Halloween stuff. Okay. So the important thing here is a lot of print-on-demand sellers, they think like in September comes around that this is the time to start and they can start sales. Now, is it impossible to get sales during this time? No, it's not impossible. You could definitely have something, if you are really doing your research, you could have something take off in this, like, on this curve and really just go crazy as the momentum picks up. But I find that this is much harder to do because if you're me, I already have a quality score on my listing that has gone back to July, and I've actually had years of quality scores on this listing. So Etsy is going to favor my listing over yours most likely. So what starting now allows you to do is it allows you to do a lot of split testing. Okay. So this is going to be my second tip for your Q4. Okay. And that is going to be doing a lot of testing. So we'll put number 2, a lot of split testing. Okay, so Kristen has a good question before we get into this. Let's talk about this. How do we know our listings quality scores? Okay, in my opinion, I wouldn't overthink this. So eRank will give your listing a quality score. You could use eRank to look at that, but I don't think you need to go that far. The important thing is that if a listing is getting likes, favorites, views, or sales, that is all positive interaction, and that's where you want to direct yourself. Okay, so let me talk about this testing, and then I'll go further into what I mean. So I wouldn't focus so much on trying to figure out like what the score is. I'd focus more on really trying to understand your customer more and understanding where the data is taking you. Your quality score, you'll just know that it will increase the more focused you are on your customer and the better products you're creating for your customer. Okay, so the more you connect with your customer, it will happen that your quality score will go up. When you're getting a sale, your quality score is getting up. So don't focus on that. Focus on going deeper with your customer, and I'll talk about that in a second. So let's go into split testing, okay? So what a lot of sellers will do is they will test out like 2 or 3 designs for like one niche or idea that they have. Now, if we weren't doing print on demand, this would be that would make sense to only test out with small things, or you'd really want to go really deep into your research because you're actually using money to create a physical item. But with Print on Demand, we have the beauty of creating nothing or something out of digital space. So we can create and test to our heart's content. What most people think is they need to test like 3 designs in one niche, and and then they're like, well, they go somewhere else. Okay, they try something else out. I recommend going even further with that. So you want to do a lot of split testing or testing different variables. So if you have a niche, test out like 10 to 15 items and really try to have a lot of variety in your testing. Because you don't want to be testing essentially the same thing over and over again. Okay, Bert says my video froze, so hopefully it's unfrozen. Is it unfrozen now, Bert? Okay, I hope it's unfrozen. Okay. So do a lot of testing. Okay. Don't and test with a lot of different variety in your testing. Don't take like one snowman and use the same snowman over and over again. Okay. You need to look for those trends. You need to try and create like your own take on them. Don't just test the same thing over and over again. I see that a lot in testing. So G Yoli says, what do you think about testing a design but for different niches? Yeah, I think that's fine. Like you can scale out a design pretty quickly. That's fast. But the important thing is that you still understand the design, like who you're designing for, and that you have a lot of research behind that to make it worth your time to create that many listings. Yeah. So, yeah, you can definitely test that way. But you got to have a lot of research behind that. So do a lot of testing, okay? So, step number 3. Is that deeper. Go deeper with your customer. Okay. So, again, when we are thinking of our designs, we are being very, 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 very customer focused. I wouldn't worry about your quality score, being like, well, what is my quality score? If customers like your product, you will know. If you're not getting sales, there's 2 things that are happening. Either your pricing's totally off. There is a pricing strategy that I highly recommend. That's in my course. Or 2, you just don't know what your customer wants and you're creating things that they have no interest in. Okay. So part of your testing is that you most likely need to go deeper with your customer. And what I see a lot of my students initially do is they tend to go too wide in their niches. So they're like creating mom stuff, and then they're creating teacher stuff, and then it's like motorcycle stuff, and then it's like a totally different product category, and then another totally different product category. You don't want to do that. You really only need, you could stick with one product category. Like you could do apparel, or you could just do home decor, or you could just do ornaments, or you could just do mugs. Printify just came out with these really cool like Stanley looking mugs that I think are awesome. But you could just do candles. There are stores that do just candles. And go deeper with your customers, and then also really understand what people are looking for. Okay? So you don't want to spread yourself too thin trying to accomplish all these different products and all these different niches. You are much better off going deeper with your customer and really following the data. And so when I talk about don't worry about your quality score, what's more important is that if you're getting likes, um, if you're getting likes, views, favorites, and sales, that's all data that you're going to use to continue to go deeper with your customer. Those are people that are essentially, think of your shop as like a physical shop. They're coming into your physical shop looking, you don't have what they want, so they leave. Okay, so that's why you got to go deeper with the people that you're serving. It's all about the customer. It's not about the sales. It's not about the quality score. It's not anything more than that. Etsy is not ghosting you if you're not getting sales. It's because you haven't gone deep enough with your customer. Okay. Okay. So those are, honestly, guys, if you did these 3 things alone, like if like forget all the things that you hear all the time, like you have to do social media. Okay, don't do social media if you don't even know who your customer is. I see so many people who are like, I'm doing social media. They don't even know who they're selling to. They haven't even gotten sales. And yes, if you had you could do the opposite where like you do social media and you're super focused on one niche, but most people don't do that. Etsy has more than enough customers coming to their platform. It's so easy to find where those low competition, high search volume keywords are on eRank that you don't need to do social media yet. You need to focus on Etsy, what their platform is bringing to you, and really understanding this customer and narrowing in on them. And you might try a couple niches. I don't have a problem when people try 2 or 3 niches, but you're not going to go very far if you're going beyond that. It's going to be really, really hard to really go deeper with that customer. Okay, so Bert says, is going deeper about niche down your ideas, like from father to stepfather or father to daughter or single father, or from fishing to bass fishing or camping to couple lake camping. So yeah, it can be all those things, like, so you're being more specific in your customer, which I think is going deeper. Like you're like, okay, it's not just you're narrowing down more into like the lower competition niches, which I think is great when you're more specific. But when I'm talking about deeper, so you already should have your golden keyword, guys. And if you don't know what a golden keyword, again, this is all stuff in my course, so you can get that if you don't know what I'm talking about. So you should have your golden keyword. So that should, and you should have confirmed demand. Okay, so those are your first 2 steps. If you haven't done that, you might have a harder time really like narrowing in on who you're focused on. And then, but really what I'm talking about is going deeper as in what's important to that customer. What emotional connections can you make with them? What are they looking for? What represents them through your product? Like, why are they looking for that product? Is it a gift? So if it's a gift, then you also need to think about the end receiver and what's important to both of them. If you're talking about bass fishing, then that's important because you're not going to want to use like a regular fish. You need to use a bass fish. And so it could be the phrasing. It could be the design element. Like, for example, if you're doing fishing, well, right now we're seeing a lot of design elements that are, we've talked about, trying to think, that have like the wave going on. There's a lot of daisies happening in a lot of design aesthetics, but that's all female oriented, right? So you're not going to put a bunch of daisies on a bass fishing shirt. So for you, that you need to go deeper to understand what are the aesthetics that your customer is looking for if they're male. Um, you know, what phrases are making them laugh? Um, what color of apparel or mug are they looking for? Um, what kind of activities are they doing when they're doing bass fishing? What are they drinking? Can you combine niches together? Like, could you do something with like bass fishing and camping, or bass fishing and drinking, bass fishing and coffee, bass fishing and a wife joke? Um, let's see here. You know, and maybe like bass fishing might be too narrow. That's where you have to use that data to confirm. So if you did fishing, which is fine, could you combine niches there? What makes them laugh? So those are the things that you got to go deeper into. Bert, we've talked a little bit about the teacher niche. It's like, well, what's important to teachers? School's out, right? They want to celebrate that. It might be 100 days of school. It could be an overstressed teacher. Coffee jokes are really popular with teachers. Um, you know, what's important to them also is they feel like they're doing something that's like very noble. So there's like sentiment there. It could be something about, um, let's see here. I think we said school just ended, summer break, back to school is happening with teachers. And then you would also need to know like what design elements are really popular, what colors are really popular for teachers, because like a bass fishing shirt is going to be very different from a teacher shirt. Teachers are probably going to need really bright colors that are very feminine um, and you know, very fun and flowy, where a fishing shirt is going to be totally opposite of that. It might be a little more vintage, more like blocky letters. And so those are the things that we're talking about when we're going deeper into our niche. Because a lot of people will try out like 5 fishing shirts, let's say, and then they're just like totally gone from it. That's where people don't go deeper with their customer, and they don't test enough. And so even if you're not getting sales, you got to keep testing, and you got to go deeper with your customer. You got to do more research. You really got to stay focused on what they want. And you shouldn't get discouraged if you don't get a sale, because all that means is you just don't know enough about your customer yet. That's all. And then the reason why I say go start now is because this gives you the time to test more things. So if you're getting those views, likes, some early sales, well, if you're getting that, again, that means that your customer is there, but you just don't know them well enough yet. You're not serving them what they want. It's like a kid going to a toy store and there's no toys. They would leave, right? So you need to give them what they want. And so what this allows you to do is you can test really on right up here. You can keep testing, keep testing, keep testing. So maybe your first ones are a total flop, but then right about here, after you've tested maybe 30, 40 designs, you know, you haven't spread yourself too thin, then you still have the opportunity to ride this wave way up here, instead of trying to figure this all out right here, and then the season's over, all the bestsellers are taking everything, right? This gives you time. So I hope that makes sense, how these 3 kind of steps help you create a very, very profitable Q4, and helps you develop those winners. I really can't say it enough. A winning product is not by luck. It is not. It's not like there's some secret sauce to it. It's not like, oh, somebody just knew how to just create one listing and it just. Now, there are shops that only have like 30 listings, and they, you know, you'll hear of people say like, you don't need all these listings. And eventually you don't need all the listings and you get better, but that's because you get better with your customer and you know where to be looking for the research and you're really zoned in on your customer, and then you don't need to create as much. But at this very, very beginning front where you're just building your store, where you're just like trying to figure things out, you have to test a lot. And when I've had winners, every time I've had a winner, my first winner, like my first idea that started to take off, never was my bestseller in the end. Because I kept going deeper with my customer, because I knew, hey, people are buying this. They like this concept. But I became my own copycat and I went deeper with my customer. I kept going deeper. And then after I kept going deeper and I kept testing, that's when I started having a stronger and stronger bestseller. Again, my first listings, this is always true, the first listings that take off have never been my best ones. It's always when I've gone deeper with my customer. And it's always happened through testing. So, Guy Yoli asked, are these the things that we should focus on with the stat guide? Yeah, so the stat guide that I put out in the group, this is a free PDF that I sent out. This is just to help you give an idea of what your stats are telling you. So I love following the data because your data really, really can guide you in your shop. It really takes a lot of the guesswork out. And so your stats will tell you kind of the health of your store and where to go next. And because a lot of people will say, well, if I'm not getting sales, then I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And they just kind of keep jumping around and around and around. They don't realize that that data is actually telling them something and what move to make next based off of that data. So your stat guide helps you kind of diagnose what your stats are telling you and then what to do next. And then, of course, the course has like, I go into like strategies on how to like base off of kind of that diagnosis there as well. We talk about that in the membership. So, yep. So yeah, if you haven't got the stat guides, you can reach out to me and let me know. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about, this will be kind of like a bonus tip because this was the topic of this, of what's supposed to be the topic of this event, is boosting profits with group listings. And this is something that I figured out really early on print on demand and has been like a big bread and butter for me actually in my shops. And what's nice about these types of listings is they can sell over and over again. So what exactly is a group listing? So a group listing is when you sell multiple products together in one listing. And there's a couple ways that you can do this. So one, you can do just a couple's product. So it could be like a Mr. and Mrs. on a mug, on apparel, on ornaments, maybe not ornaments, mugs, yeah, apparel, cups, but something that would be like matchy-matchy with a significant other. You could also do like family-oriented group shirts. Think about family reunions, family trips, family Halloween costumes, matching pajama shirts. The people will buy just the shirts. They won't buy just the pants. And so you can do it so that these group listings have an option for multiple people. The other way you can do it is I have a listing where it's for a couple's shirt, but they have multiple options to choose from for that shirt. So it's essentially like it's the same design concept. So it's like a couple words, but the design is different. it's just like variations of that original idea. So they can choose. And so what I've done is I have like numbers per item. And so they can pick like number 1 and number 10. And so I found that some customers wanted that because they didn't like the combination that I had. They want to be able to choose their own combination. So that's another way you could do a group listing. The benefit of a group listing is that there are people who want to buy multiples of something. There is actually people who are like, oh, I want to be matchy-matchy with my husband, or I want to be matchy-matchy with my family, or I want to be matchy-matchy with my teacher friends, or with my girlfriends going out to a party, um, or people also want to do like, you could also do a gift giving group listing. So let's say that you have like a thank you ornament. Okay, there are people who will buy in bulk ornaments to give to their coworkers or to their employees or their church group or whatever. And you could have multiple options in that available to them. So it could be all kind of the same sentiment, like thanks for being there for me, Merry Christmas, I love you. And you can show those in all the listings so people can choose one as well. Um, so Guy asked a really, really good question. When you do the different options, do you need to fulfill them manually? Well, that's what Chris was going to show us today, is how to set up your group listing on Anywhere POD so that it actually is all automated. You don't have to fulfill them manually. In the past, prior to Anywhere POD, yes, you had to fulfill them manually, and I will tell you, it's miserable because I've had to do it for many, many years, and it is very, very time consuming. It really backlog, like puts you on a backlog of like money making activities because you're always dealing with these dang group listings. But now with Anywhere POD, you can set it up so that it fulfills automatically. So once I figure out what went wrong, we'll have Chris back on here and he will show us how to set up that group listing on Anywhere POD. But this is a really, really great strategy that you can go for because people will buy in groups. Another benefit too is like, let's say that people buy an ornament. Well, if they buy 5 ornaments, well, your profit margins are going to increase because shipping gets cheaper per item. So that's another benefit of having a group listing, or you could even do like a little bit of a discount because you know that you're going to have better shipping costs, and then you can compete a little bit more on price too. So group listings are really, really, really awesome, and Anywhere POD makes it really easy. So we'll wrap up today's call. So if you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to put it in the chat. Bert, you said that earlier you had asked about a challenge. Yes, that is still coming. Yeah, and if you have any other questions, feel free to put it in the chat, and then we'll wrap up this call. And while I'm waiting for the questions, I'll just review real quick what we went over for those who might have come a little bit late. So first of all, getting ready for Q4. If you want to have a very successful Q4, and you want to boost your profits, start now. Now is the time. Split testing. Awesome. Do lots and lots of testing. And then third, go deeper with your customer. So don't just like jump ship just because you're not getting sales. If you're not getting sales, it's because you don't know your customer. So you need to do more research on your customer. Keep researching. Go deeper with them. Okay, so questions. Candace asked, wanted to make sure I understood what a group listing was. Like, that's like matching shirts. Yeah, so you'll see that matching shirts for like weddings are really common, for like bachelorette parties. This is a very common way to do matching shirts. You could also do, Chris is going to do an example of 2 wine glasses and it said Mr. and Mrs. That's also, that would be considered a group listing because you're grouping 2 products together that would match, so people would want both. Like, people aren't just going to order a Mrs. cup or a Mr. It's like, no, Mr. and Mrs. for the wedding. You could also have an option for, let's say like you have a really nice, um, let's say you're selling a digital product that has like a quote on it. You could also add like a pillow and a mug to that. So maybe people really like this like digital poster you created, and they're like, oh, when they do the drop it down, they could see that you have it on a mug too, and so then they can buy a physical product. That's another way of doing a group listing. Or you could have, it could be like a bundle of certain things, like it could be like a towel with a weekender bag, um, you know. So yeah, you could bundle like similar items together too, or maybe it's like a certain um, decor theme or something like that. So that is all different ideas for doing group listing. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing anything more in the chat. So thank you guys so much for being here. I am so sorry that we couldn't figure out how to get Chris on, but we will figure it out and get him in here hopefully in the next week or so. Oh, we have one more question here. We'll do that real quick. It says, when do we do the testing? Should we have every photo and mock-ups? Um, yeah, but you can just repeat the things that you've used. So you don't need to have a new mock-up for each product. So you can just use the same mock-up for each product you create. And then you can also have like placeholder photos as well. So like you could have like a guarantee in all your listings. So a lot of it shouldn't have to be like recreated for each listing. You can reuse the same stuff over and over again. So hopefully that helps. All right, guys. For those of you who are in my membership, I will see you guys next week. And I hope that you guys have learned a little bit today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the group, and I am happy to help. Okay, bye everyone.